Hi, it's Hasnaa. Welcome back to another PsychE-Learning video. Today's topic is emotional instability, which is more famously known as borderline personality disorder. Well, everybody has been through some challenges during their life, and it's always nice to have someone be there and help you through it. But sometimes the way you approach someone, even though you're trying to help them, just ends up hurting them, and that just makes the situation worse because you didn't approach them the right way. So just an overview of what this video will be covering. First, we'll look at the warning signs, then what you can do and some communication tips, and finally, how to set boundaries with that individual. The way you approach someone really matters. If you see somebody hurting, especially if it is a loved one, you want to help them and you want to support them and you want to be there for them. But the approach really matters because it might end up hurting them more than it is helping them. So just remember, if you are trying to help, make sure you're doing it the right way. Borderline personality disorder can be kind of hard to recognize because it can be paired with other disorders such as depression, anxiety, an eating disorder, substance abuse, bipolar disorder, and other kinds of disorders. So the first warning sign you should look out for is if that person makes you feel like you have to walk on eggshells around them. So little questions you can ask yourself are, do you feel like what you're saying might make them mad? Do you feel like you have to hide your own emotions and your own feelings so that you don't hurt that other person? Another thing you should observe is extreme mood swings. What I mean by this is, are they really happy 1 minute and then the next they're super mad at you for no reason? Are they unpredictable and you never know what's gonna happen next with them? In that case, then they do suffer from extreme mood swings and emotional extremes. The next thing is if you have that feeling of helplessness. Does that person make you feel like you're never right, that everything you do or say will be twisted and used against you, that that person's expectations are always changing so you can't really keep up with them? All these things make you feel like you're helpless and you can't really help them and you can't win any situation. Another warning sign is if the blame is always put on you. It's always your fault, you're always the one being criticized, you're always the one who's at wrong. So the last thing you should look out for is if you feel like you're being manipulated. That person might use threats, get very angry, become very dramatic, and can even do dangerous things to himself but to you. Some things you should know about people that suffer from BPD is that they can say things that are very mean and cruel at times, but it's just something that you really have to take in and understand because they're going through this disorder. Also, people with BPD have a hard time reading body language and nonverbal cues, so you really have to make sure that you're being straightforward with them and telling them things how it is. And they really interpret things their own way. So whatever you're trying to say to them might get twisted and distorted, and you just really have to stay calm during those situations and just try to understand what they're going through. By being clear with them, it's easier for them to understand what you're trying to get to and what the point is. So now we get to the part of what you can do to help someone out. And the first thing you have to do is think of yourself. Before you go out there and try to help someone else out, you have to make sure that you yourself are emotionally capable of doing so. And if you're not prepared, this whole situation might physically and emotionally drain you. It's like if you're on a plane and they're giving you the safety instructions, they tell you to put the oxygen mask on yourself first, and then you're in the position to help others. The best way to tackle this is through communication. Through the right communication, it will make them better. They might even try to seek professional help, and they'll just be in a better mental state overall. So now that you know more about people with BPD, how they act, how they behave, we'll go into the conversation tips. The timing of when to have the conversation is very important. You can't talk to them while you're in the middle of a fight or in an argument. You have to postpone the conversation when both of you are calm and ready to have the talk. Once you're both calm and in the right state of mind, the first tip is listening. Listening is crucial. You really have to listen to what they're saying and how they're feeling. You have to make them feel like you're there with them and they're being heard. You need to avoid distractions such as the TV, your phone, or whatever else is going on around you. It's between you and that person. And overall, just make sure that you're being sympathetic while you're listening to them and really listening and not trying to give in your own opinion while they're talking. And overall, just make sure that you're being sympathetic while you're listening to them and really listening and not trying to give in your own opinion while they're talking. The second communication tip is understanding how they're feeling inside. So try to listen to the emotion they're trying to convey instead of listening to the words they're saying. By doing that, you're really acknowledging the pain they're going through and you're really understanding why they're behaving that way. The next step is to stay calm. I know it can be very, very hard when you're being insulted or being blamed for things you haven't done, but it is very, very crucial for you to stay composed. Defending yourself will only make it worse and just make the individual angrier. And if it goes too far, make sure that you just walk away and postpone the conversation for another time. The next thing is that sometimes actions speak louder than words. So instead of just talking to them, just do an activity that both of you like to do and enjoy, and that can be soothing for both of you. The next thing is just avoid talking about their disorder because it just doesn't help anyone. It just ends up hurting their feelings, and you never know how they might interpret it. Instead, talk about other things, explore other topics. You can talk about your interests, your future plans, your hobbies. I mean, there's so much to talk about. So avoiding the topic of their disorder would be very, very helpful. Now we get to the topic of how to set boundaries. So the way to set boundaries is to have a clear conversation with the individual that's concerned. And again, timing is very important. You have to make sure that both of you are calm and you really have to make your expectations clear to that individual and say what you're okay with and what you're not. So when you're ready to have that talk, make sure you're calmly reassuring them and telling them that setting these boundaries are important for your relationship to get better. Next, once those boundaries are set, make sure that they're being enforced and that the consequences are done if the boundaries are broken. And this talk doesn't have to be a one-time thing, it can be a gradual process. So you don't have to hit that person with all the boundaries at once, you can introduce them one at a time. And that will really help them really focus on each boundary and applying them correctly. So finally, just something you should not tolerate at all is abusive behavior. No one should have to put up with physical or verbal abuse, and if they are harming you, make sure to walk away. And walking away doesn't mean you don't love them any less, but your own health has to be your priority. Thank you all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed, and just remember everything we talked about when you're trying to communicate and approach someone who suffers from emotional instability. See you guys next week and stay safe. Bye!